Welcome to the World Warriors of Capcom Cup Player Series Showcase. I'm Ultra David.
And I'm James Chen. This is the video series in which we go over all 16 of the players that have qualified for Ultra Street Fighter 4 at the Capcom Cup 2014. This is going to take place on December 13th at the Warfield in San Francisco. Really cool venue. And if you can make it there to watch it live, you got to try to do it because it's going to be super exciting. Of course, if you can't watch it live, then just watch it on twitch.tv/Capcom Fighters.
So there are a couple of different ways to qualify for the Capcom Cup. 16 players do it. 10 of them get in by winning one of 10 tournaments and thereby qualifying automatically. The remaining 6 get in by getting enough points at tournaments throughout the year and all over the world.
Yep.
Today we're going to talk about a player who did qualify through an automatic spot.
Yeah, and rather late considering who it is as well, because obviously a lot of people probably feel like it's not going to be quite an event without one Daigo Umehara.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It actually took him a while before he got his guaranteed spot in there.
Well, the way that he qualified was that he qualified for the CPT Asia finals.
Right.
So there was a sort of a sub-qualifier, CPT Capcom Pro Tour Asia.
Right.
There were qualifiers for that. He qualified for that fairly early, but then he didn't actually qualify for Capcom Cup until he won that event,
Yes.
which was a while later. So he is one of the later qualifiers as a result.
And of course, the reason why everyone expects him to be there is because he is Daigo the Beast Umehara. I mean, what?
That's a great
way
to put it.
How much more could you? I mean, seriously, right now, if you had to have greatest fighting game players of all time in any of the games, Daigo Umehara would probably be on the list of leading like 1 or 2 people.
Oh, he's right near the top. Yeah, he's at the top or he's right near it. And it's that way because his record of success goes back so long. It goes back more than 15 years, nearly 20 years, and it's something that started in Japan. He did come over to the U.S. Relatively early.
He was one of the first
He was
people.
one of the first.
Right, so it was in Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Right.
They had a tournament there which Daigo won, and they were going to fly the winner out to America to play against the winner of an American tournament, which happened to be Alex Vai.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first clashes between top Japanese and American players. And Daigo took that one 3-2. It was really close. It was really close, but it set the stage for Daigo's kind of infamous story throughout American fighting game lore almost, And I mean, we can talk about how it expanded, obviously, in 2004, Evolution 2004, in the infamous Daigo parry moment in Third Strike against Justin Wong, where he just basically pulled off the most ridiculous parry and comeback victory in a round, and it was like that moment was voted by esports communities as the greatest esports moment like in all of competitive gaming history, know. And it's just only grown from there. He had continued to come back, win tournaments, and then when Street Fighter 4 came out in 2009 was the epic rematch between Justin and Daigo in grand finals, which Daigo took. And then he also followed it up next year in 2010, defeating Ricky Ortiz in grand finals. Right.
So obviously he's a top player in Street Fighter 4, but that experience goes throughout a whole bunch of different games. Nowadays, I feel like if you've sort of relatively recently joined the scene, you might only know him for one game. It's really all he plays now. But for most of his tournament career, he played a bunch of different games. He was successful in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and the Alphas, as you mentioned, and Vampire Savior.
Guilty Gear series.
Guilty Gear, right. He had a lot of different games that he was great at. CVS 2, he has so many different games. He is so versatile. He has such history in the scene and winning tournaments. We took a look at his Wikipedia page, which is huge. It's a real Wikipedia page, okay? It's not like some little short blurb. And it has a whole list of his achievements, and the tournaments go all the way up.
from
back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the results are like first, second, fourth,
all
the way up to the top, you know, and it's been like that, like I said, since the 90s.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about that is he's become an icon in Japan now.
Yeah.
So this success in the fighting games have actually propelled him into, I mean, he's a celebrity there. He's absolutely a celebrity in Japan. People stand in line to meet him. He has endorsement deals on other games and food products, I think.
Right.
I'm not sure, but like he's had a manga written about him.
Right.
He had a biography written about him. He's written his own book and such. And yeah, this guy, like I said, he's a superstar now. And I mean, it's not undeserved because this guy is one of the craziest fighting game players in all of history. So
yeah, right. So it's almost a little tough to sort of nail down what about his style we should look for because it's just so comprehensive.
Right. I mean, so one of the common themes that we've talked about is the whole feels kind of like emotion player versus science player. We've talked about this in a couple of the videos in this series, right? Daigo has been playing so long, so he's old school, so he definitely has a lot of the emotion, the kind of, feel the moment kind of play, more than the science, but recently he's really started adding the science. In fact, actually, I can't even say recently.
No, it goes back a while.
Yeah, he's been doing like safe jump option selects in Super Turbo.
Right.
Before we could even name it anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and early in Street Fighter 4, before Street Fighter 4 style option selects were a big deal. When I put in some work doing that stuff early on, and one of the inspirations for that was actually a Daigo video where I saw him do an option select. And I thought that's a really fantastic idea, and so he's been doing, by science play we sort of mean that he finds the technical side of things, that he finds little exploits, or he understands how to exploit little situations, or that he really puts time in training mode in very specific sort of ways that allow him to get at exactly what his opponent's character's weaknesses are.
Right,
and he does that so well. If he knows who his opponent is going to be, there's this sort of likening to prep time Batman.
Yeah.
Where if he knows who he's going to play against and if he has time to prepare, so difficult to beat because he does have the sort of feels play as you talked about, and those have served him well since forever. But he can also do research on a player and understand all of a player's tendencies and those little minute situations and how to overcome the situations his opponent tries to set up and find situations his opponent has trouble dealing with. He is so good at finding out little spots on screen to stand and all of those little things and then carrying it out in practice and having those two things, that is to say, the ability to research on an opponent and the ability to actually carry it out, which is great because there are some people who are great at finding stuff.
Yes.
Great at coming up with new tech and all that sort of but can't really put it into practice in a real match, okay? But he's among the best at both of those.
I really like to qualify players in one of two categories, either as this kind of emotional, like they really read the situation, the feels kind of player, and the science player, right? And given Daigo's background and history, he's been playing for a very long time. I've always considered him basically one of the best at the emotion feels kind of player.
Right.
But interestingly enough, like kind of recently, well, I don't even know if I want to say recently, like he's really been a scientist a lot as well. He's done a lot of kind of interesting sciencey things in before.
It definitely goes back a while. Yeah, even back in Super Turbo, he was doing jump-in option select Dragon Punch against Honda and that sort of stuff, even before there was really a word for that.
Right, exactly. We didn't even have a name for what he was doing, and he was doing it back then. And so it's really interesting because for the most part, I always do an either or. You're either an emotion player or a science player. But Daigo, I mean, he is pretty much the best example that I know of as a guy who excels at both.
Right, yeah. He really puts in time in the training room, in the lab. You can really see that he finds those exact little spots to take advantage of in a way that sort of pure emotion players don't.
Right.
So he will look for exact spots on screen. He'll look for tech that purposely deals with some situation, and I think he's among the best in the world at doing that, and also at just sort of feeling what's right to do in the moment.
Right. He almost kind of inspired you for the whole option select.
Exactly.
Like, it's one of your favorite things in fighting games is option select.
One of my favorite things in fighting games is that sometimes there's situations where you can cover more than one option with one sort of setup. And I like that because it sort of boils it down to the strategy rather than dealing with little individual things. I like that, and I started really looking at that in Street Fighter 4. And one of the inspirations for that was actually a Daigo video that I just happened to see online. I had never really noticed him doing that until that point. And he was one of the people who made me stop and go, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, like I said, before we even had a name for it, he was using it. I mean, nowadays it's easy for us to talk about because we have all these terms for it and everything like that. But Daigo back then was jump in with a good timing kick into uppercut, and if he does this, the upper, it was like there was no name for it.
Right, so. Exactly, yeah. So when it comes to sort of deciding what Daigo is good at in fighting games, I just don't know that you can pick out one thing as being the best about him or anything as being weak about his play. Maybe if we're going to mention something that is his weakness, we'll say it's execution. But even then, it's not the case that he's frequently dropping stuff. He does what he needs to do,
right?
In terms of getting combos done. Not his strong point necessarily, but he does fine with it, and it allows him to do all of the excellent strategic, very tactical play that he does and succeeds with.
Right, and it's really funny. I mean, probably the biggest strength that he has is his reads. Right, I mean, he's so good at predicting and understanding what the opponents are like. In fact, he's even said, like, when he plays, he assesses the opponent and puts them into little categories. And it allows him to almost do these psychic kind of things. In fact, speaking of psychic things, he literally has a move named after him. It is the Umeshoryu, I should say. The Umeshoryu, his last name, Umehara, is the Umeshoryu, which is, we've always... like the term for it, I guess, is the psychic DP, but now it's just it's the Umeshoryu where he just uppercuts a limb. Like you just throw in a punch and all of a sudden he uppercuts it. I mean, he's so synonymous with it now that that's just what we call it. Like us as commentators, we don't even call it psychic DPs anymore. It's like, oh, nice Umeshoryu, I mean, that's just the way it works now because he's so known for those reads. But
one of the things about his play lately is that it's qualified not just by a lot of success, but also that he's starting to bring in a different aspect to it, where he's also concerned about helping the community to grow and bringing some sort of showmanship aspect to it.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Daigo probably for like hours and hours, but I mean, he's really got this really interesting history because he's played a lot of fighting games. He was so good at them. He was like one of the best, but then he took a break.
Yeah.
In fact, he disappeared for a little while, didn't play much. Street Fighter 4 kind of brought him back, and he had success obviously in 2009, 2010, where he won EVO, but it kind of put things in a different light for him. Now he really does kind of think about the community and what he can do to make it grow and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see how that's kind of changed the way he's approached a lot of things. And I think it's really respectful.
Yeah, well, that said, he is certainly dedicated to winning Capcom Cup. I mean, he's just playing Street Fighter 4. It's the only game he's really putting time in with.
Yeah.
And that he's in the lab doing all those things we were talking about with trying to find little situations to beat people. In the past when he has had a chance to play against top-level players in a prearranged sort of setting, like an exhibition match or the like, he has taken players who have had a lot of success, Evolution tournament winning players, and just dominated them when he has time to prepare.
Right, so he's lost to Infiltration at a couple of Evolutions, and then they played a 1st to 10, and Daigo pretty much decimated him.
Destruction.
Yeah, and then Shen as well, they had another exhibition, and Daigo dominated
Destruction.
him. Yeah, so every time he has a chance to prepare, he's like we said before, he's so scary, and this tournament he's going in is just nothing but people he knows.
Well, this tournament that we're going to watch, the video is of him playing against Shen, and it's in the grand finals. It was a first to 7. We're not going to watch the whole thing, just for brevity's sake, just enough to sort of give you an idea of what's going on. But he knew who the players were going to be, because this was a qualifier. We were talking about you had to qualify for CPT Asia in the first place, and so he knew everybody there, and he knew what to do, and he went out and he did it.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll see this example. So this is a first to 7. We're going to start. It's going to be 2-1 in favor of Daigo right at the beginning here. But you can see against Shen. Remember, Shen won Evo, super high quality player. He's going to be at Capcom Cup as well. But you're going to just see an example of Daigo's dominance in this kind of situation where he has all this time to prepare against you.
Daigo's on the right there. Shen is on the left. And Daigo's on the first player side. He goes with the Evil Ryu in Ultra. He's most well known for playing regular Ryu. That's the character that he's been using essentially forever.
His whole life,
Except for like in Third Strike where Ken was the Ryu.
Right.
So he goes to the Evil Ryu because in this game Evil Ryu's better. He deals more damage. His crouch medium kick to fireball is a tighter block string. It's just sort of a better choice in this game.
Yeah, he's been playing Ryu forever, so his fireball game is probably one of the best. And Ryu's fireball game in this is not as good, I think, as Evil Ryu's fireball game because of the true block string facet. So not only does he get his fireball game back, but he also gets all the other benefits that come with Evil Ryu.
Yeah, he's definitely a better character.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, I remember when Daigo first started using Evil Ryu, I wasn't that impressed because he was dropping a lot of his really, the crazy axe kick loops and stuff like that, right? But the smart thing about Daigo is that he realized, he's coming from Ryu who didn't have crazy combos, right? And he was winning with Ryu. So he decided at some point in time, you could see it a lot in his gameplay, that he doesn't need to do these crazy combos with Evil Ryu unless he really needs to win. But outside of that, he'll do the simple combo, low forward fireball, FADC into like just crouch fierce hurricane, and that's it, or just directly into raw ultra or something like that. And it's really smart because he took something that may not kind of be his strength and removed that factor a little bit so he can play him as solidly as possible. And it's really good at showing people that, no, you don't have to learn all the max damage, one frame link combos and still be like one of the best players on the planet.
Right.
So. Oh yeah, and right there you saw where the hands FADC right there kind of reminded me of one of the things about Daigo is he's not afraid to take damage.
Right.
He is just not scared to take damage. In fact, when he played the first to 10 with Shen, as we mentioned before, he knows that one of Gen's biggest strengths was hands super into ultra.
Right.
Right? So what he would actually do is he would find moments where Gen did not have a full bar of meter and almost purposely take damage. He talked about this in the interview afterwards. He would purposely run into stuff so that Shen would be tempted to do hand slap FADC minor damage.
Right.
So he wouldn't take damage later on, which is just ridiculous. I remember a Super Turbo match. He fought against a Dalsum and he would just uppercut from the other side of the screen and he ate like 4 standing fierces. But then he got the super, all of a sudden Dalsum was afraid to throw fireballs and then he could just rush in there and defeat the Dalsum. So
yeah, he has, I think, sort of a reputation as one of the prototypical players. But I don't think that that's real. I think that he's a much more unique sort of player. He has unique ideas. He has unique tactics. That's a very unique thing that you were just describing, something that very few people would consider. Let alone use against such a high-level player like Shen. But that's sort of what Daigo does. He's a creative guy.
Actually, you know what? The way you described it, I think this is a good way to kind of put it, is that Daigo is very philosophical when it comes to these fighting games.
Sure.
There's like some weird like philosophy mindset that he has that he almost like, I almost picture him sitting on the floor, like just like cross, like, like thinking about it in some yoga position or something like that. Just like, really understanding fighting games. Because, and see, there you go. Just, again, not scared to uppercut right there.
Yeah, in this set, Shen at the start used Ultra in that kind of situation. And I think it either worked at the start or Daigo blocked at the start. Or it was in the previous set that they played, in fact, now that I think about it. But he adapted, immediately. He figured it out.
Yeah.
Just do your ultra in response, and that's what he does ever since.
And that's another thing that he's really good at. He's really good at fighting patterns.
Yes,
He's
absolutely.
really good at picking out what it is that you like to do, and then he can punish it really fast. Really, really fast. And so, yeah, I mean, the nice thing about it is I think the reason why a lot of people like to say, do you see those little whiff stand jabs?
Yeah, I like that. I really like when people do things like that. What he's trying to do is sort of bait Shen into, well, what he was hoping for was that sort of stuff would go away thanks to the baits from before. That was the goal. It didn't work out, but I do like that he brings that in.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just trying to get him to jump through a fireball.
Yeah,
like I said, he knows the fireball game better than anybody else, so by throwing those stand jabs, it makes it kind of hard. But this is just a really good round for Shen. But, oh, great, here comes Daigo.
Oh, yeah, I believe that's it.
But see?
That's one of the benefits of Evil Ryu.
Yep, exactly. And it just goes into raw ultra. So much damage on that.
Yeah, it is.
And
Look at the little smile on his face there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. We talked about how he's kind of changed into this, thinking about the scene in the community and stuff like that. One of the things about Daigo that he had a reputation of pre-Street Fighter 4 was that he was emotionless.
Yeah.
That he was like a robot, a machine.
Right.
But at recent tournaments, you've seen him laugh a lot more, like chuckle and with little wry smiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, he looks like he's having a good time, and that seems good for him. I mean, look, he was great when he was doing the stone face gig, don't get me wrong. Ooh, that's going to be pretty beefy. Yeah. But now that he's sort of enjoying it, it seems like there's a lot of success that's coming with it.
Exactly. He's having a lot more fun, and I think that's really cool, too. Yeah, that's going to miss there.
Yeah, Daigo had planned for that. Not that he was necessarily expecting it from Shen, but he put himself in a situation where it was relevant.
Yeah, that was pretty much a lose, almost a guaranteed loss kind of situation. Yeah, and again, see, I mean, the one thing I do like about the fact that Daigo doesn't go for crazy axe kick loops really just is he knows his limitations. There's two kinds of executions. There's I can do combos really well, but the second level of execution is I never miss anything. Like when I need to do something, I'll do it. Daigo's good at the second one, not necessarily the first one.
That's a good way to put it.
And so he will keep himself limited to only needing to rely on the second one instead of the first one. And I think that's really smart. Another player that I think is actually better than Daigo at that is Mike Watson.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
the best at being able to do what he needs to do it all the time and won't go for anything fancy, But again, you can see Daigo.
That was a really nice jump. For sure.
And sometimes, honestly, against really good fireball characters, you just have to just jump at them.
Yeah. No
because it's too hard to read when they're going to throw a fireball. So that's really smart on Shen, just to, not get discouraged by getting anti-aired over and over again.
Got to do it sometime, yeah.
But again, this is what Daigo wants to play, is this Footsies game, this low forward fireball game. And you can see that he's just staying outside of the range of low strong and low roundhouse from Gen. And this is just a great example of how good his positioning is.
Yeah, he's had lots of positioning where he's just outside of Gen's focus range. It wasn't there, but it was a lot of the time. He's had a range, that's about it, where he can throw a fireball, he can't be focus punished, super punish gets tough, jump won't work as a punish. So he puts himself at good ranges.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like there was one point where he wasn't walking in. He wasn't walking until Shen missed a move first. So he'll actually wait for Shen to miss a move before he actually tries to maintain any offense. Or if he's getting the read that Shen's not touching buttons anymore.
Right.
Again, just once Daigo, like I said, it's really interesting because when he does know his opponents and he gets to study them, he finds really interesting things about the players. I just wish one day I could just put a machine into his head just so I can tap into his mind and see what he's thinking all the time. I think Shen takes this one. Oh, well, does he take this one?
Shoutouts to W Ultra.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There
okay.
you go.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Throughout the set, Shen tries that sort of situation where he goes in for the cross-up or not cross-up. It's supposed to be tricky. That one worked, but it actually worked quite rarely.
Right.
And so, Daigo has clearly put in the time to figure out, okay, if Gen jumps from here and he uses this timing, and he's in either the kick or punch stance, which is relevant for Gen, then it'll be a cross up or not.
Right.
And he seems to know that well enough that he very rarely gets hit by it.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about Daigo as well is he's been very secretive about his play.
Yeah.
But I gotta imagine that he probably sits there and practices a lot of these things with like a Gen training dummy or something like that. But dang, look at this.
Pretty convincing response to Shen's second game.
But I mean, there's not a lot of footage of him playing online.
Yeah, right.
Or playing at tournaments.
Just in general.
He hasn't gone to a lot of tournaments on purpose
Yep.
because he doesn't want people seeing his tech. He's really kind of a crafty guy that way. He plays the game inside and outside the game.
Right. So I mentioned how he has unique ideas. I think that's one of them. Mm-hmm. Because what he's gambling is that his ability to be secretive and bring in things that people don't expect is more important than having experience against very high-level players.
Right.
Both of those things are very important. Okay, you have to have experience to win, but he's betting that he has enough experience and that he can do enough work on his own to take Capcom Cup. He certainly did it at this tournament, CPT Asia.
Yeah.
You
Again,
see the block there.
yeah, so that time it didn't get caught by that mix-up there. Oh, just some execution errors. Those are crucial. And, this is just one of those things where when you fight, oh, dang, that was really good. Really good. Like we said, Shen is a strong player
He's
here,
really
right?
good.
He's a really great player. And, it's crazy to me that Daigo can be so dominating against a player like that. But, I mean, again, one of the things that we talked about a little bit, he hasn't played in a lot of tournaments. It does kind of hurt him sometimes in open tournament formats,
Yeah,
I feel like.
I think you're right.
Because he can run into some crazy random players or just some bad matchups, right? And if that kind of happens, it hurts. Was he going to double perfect? Yeah.
Yeah.
It can kind of hurt him, the more recluse kind of style that he's been using lately. But at the same time, that's just not the case here at Capcom Cup.
Yeah. Right.
He's not going to have to worry about random people.
Nope.
So yeah, here he is. He's at 5-2. He only needs to win 2 more. And again, it's really nice that you can just see how Daigo just kind of sticks to his guns. He knows what's working. He sticks with it, and he just keeps it going.
Look at those blocks. He's blocked that mix-up, I think, correctly almost every time.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, too, because, there's a lot of other players out there that, are fan favorites because they're flashy, they do lots of crazy things and all that stuff like that, but Daigo's play is it's very solid. You know what I mean? You don't get to see a lot of crazy, flashy things outside of, low fierce super from across the screen against Dawson's fierce punch.
Yeah. Well, he has, we talked about the Daigo parry. There's, that's a good moment to bring up, too. There are certainly those moments. Oh yeah, nice. But you're right. I think when it comes to seeing most games, most rounds, for example, these, there's just a lot of really solid understanding of where he is on screen, where his opponent's character is on screen, the options that they can both bring to bear.
Yeah, honestly, in this matchup, I don't know the fight as well as probably both of these guys, but I would imagine that Gen kind of out Footsies Ryu with the low fierce and the low roundhouse and his low strong and a hand slap and such. But you can see right there where the low roundhouse whiffed by like pixels. Daigo just has such an understanding of the spacing that it's really hard for Shen to take advantage of a lot of those advantages that I feel like Gen has.
Right.
And Daigo's not the kind of player who's going to let those little low strong into hands really bother him because it's just chip damage a lot of the times. And you see one of the adaptations that Daigo has now when he does uppercut FADC, he holds the FADC for half a second, because then if it hits, he can still forward dash into Ultra, and if not, then he can back dash.
I like the gutsy fireball that Daigo had about 10 seconds before that. He threw out a fireball on reaction to Gen charging up focus. That's a risk, because if Gen lets focus go, that's a crumple on Evil Ryu. But Daigo takes these moments where he knows what's going on. It's almost like a psychic DP in that sense, that was the level of risk he was employing, but it paid off.
Yeah, as careful as we like to say he plays, he does take a lot of risks.
Yeah, I don't think I would call him careful. I think he's very well studied. Certainly, he knows all the ins and outs, but he knows when he can take a risk and when doing so is a good idea, and he does.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, sure enough, it's, it can come back to bite him. We saw it happen versus Punko at Evo, where he did 3 wake-up uppercuts in a row, and it basically just cost him.
Yeah.
With Yud, it cost him the game. But, he's not shy from backing down.
Yeah.
And, when they asked him why he did 3 uppercuts in a row, he's just like, it just felt like the right thing to do at the time,
Right.
I mean, it just felt like he wasn't going to block the 3rd time.
Right.
And that's just how he plays it. Like I said, he's so strong in that emotion, feel, the moment kind of thing. So, and here he is at tournament point for this. And up 6-2. And by the way, Shen was coming from loser's bracket, so we would have to win 2 sets, which is probably already pretty mentally
That would be
draining.
really tough.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, he
Daigo.
just gets out of almost all those situations. That's supposed to be one of Gen's big advantages. Gen has a good mid-range game against Shoto's, but he also has good pressure. And the mid-range game has been fine for him, but the pressure, only a few times has it really paid off. And that's a testament to Daigo's understanding of where Gen's going.
But again, it's even when he does get hit by stuff, I don't know if Daigo, he doesn't ever feel like he's worried about it.
Yeah,
you know what I
doesn't,
mean?
yeah.
He's just like, okay, whatever, you hit me.
Right.
As long as he minimizes the damage that he takes.
Oh, that was so. You see him fish for the down strong
Yeah.
a couple of times beforehand.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that just so
Sure.
we can take a look at that really quick.
Sure.
Yeah, right here. Look at this. He's behind in life here. And he gets pushed away a little bit.
He's looking for the counter hit combo so he can get the link
there.
into more damage. And he sees it and he gets it and Wayne takes the round on it.
3 low strongs, yep. And you see right there,
Yeah, human bomb.
was that human bomb there who was doing the low strong motion? One of the guys there watching it was like, my God, he just did low strong 3 times in a row. So now here he is, tournament point. And yeah, see, even empty jump throw.
Yeah. He's just been
Daigo's-
ready.
Yeah. Oh, read that.
Such a risk against
see?
Evil Ryu.
Right there, you could do longer combos. He had the meter to
Yes,
do
absolutely he could have.
axe kick into FADC dash. Nope, you just did low forward hurricane. He said, I don't care. I'm going to take my damage, and I'm good. Save the meter in these situations. Oh, he missed it.
It's
But
pretty much
doesn't
it
matter.
though. Yeah. Chip out.
And there it is, and Daigo is going to take that. And, still a little bit of the stoic Daigo evidenced here, but...
Yeah, you're not going to see him go crazy. I don't think.
Dude, wouldn't that be sick if he won and, you saw him just be going yay!
I wouldn't even know how to react on commentary, to be honest. That'd be so outside of what I expect.
Dude, I want him to jump and fist pump, slide on the floor on his knees or something.
Look, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We'll find out how I react because I have no idea going into it. I'm not planning for that eventuality.
Yeah, but look, Daigo's 2014 hasn't quite been as successful as a lot of his previous years. In fact, looking through that Wikipedia page that we saw, Evolution this year may have been his worst tournament finish in his lifetime.
At least the results that are recorded.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
probably
yeah.
don't record the terrible ones.
Right.
But yeah, he got a 49th.
Yeah, 49th place.
It's not what he wanted to do, obviously.
Right.
But it's not. So you're right. He didn't do that well at Evo. Did great at CPT Asia. We just saw him qualify. He'll be at Capcom Cup. But he didn't give himself that many opportunities to do well this year. So if he had gone out to more events, would he have done better? Overall, would he have had more high-placing finishes? Maybe. But that's not the priority for him right now. The priority is to keep himself secret and let other people show all the things that they're doing so that when it comes to finally playing them in CPT, he'll know.
Yeah, look, despite the fact that this hasn't been his best year, you can't not consider him the favorite going into this event, given his history of that whole prep time Batman kind of feeling, having the ability to study his opponents and really get a read on them. Honestly, I don't know if I would bet on Daigo or the field. I'd probably still go with the field because the field is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, Daigo is also pretty ridiculous himself.
I think in my opinion, there's a short list of 4 or 5 players who are the favorites. And he is absolutely in that group.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single match that he could play there where he would be considered the underdog.
No, I don't know. It's at worst case, it's a 50-50.
Right,
That's it.
right.
He's not the undercard to anybody.
Yeah, but look, Daigo, he's the most famous fighting game player on the planet for a reason. It's because he's just repeated success, such a strong player, such a smart player as well. And, you know, the stuff that he has done for the fighting game community is fantastic. And a lot of people were thrilled when he qualified at CPT Asia to get into this event, because he wasn't at last year's event, and you know, this year it just feels like, okay, Daigo's here, this feels right, kind of a thing, you know.
I agree with that.
You know, so I'm super happy to see him in this event. I can't wait to see how this is gonna go.
I hear that.
Man, I don't know. Just like thinking about all the possibilities of what's gonna happen is just right now, like I'm playing it out in my head, and it's just
Coming
like
pretty soon, folks.
So December 13th, the Warfield in San Francisco. God, you do not want to miss this.
Yeah.
It is probably going to be one of the most epic fighting game events in a long time. So check that out again if you're in the area. Try to buy some tickets. If not, twitch.tv/Capcom Fighters. Follow the channel. Subscribe to the channel just so as soon as it starts up, you do not want to miss it, because there's going to be a lot of crazy things at this event.
Yeah.
Not even just some of these great players here. You know, there's going to be live band performance and all this stuff. And they just announced Street Fighter V is coming out. They actually had some trailer, like some gameplay footage of it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the trailer, they said there's going to be a demonstration round at Capcom Pro Tour, at Capcom Cup.
Yeah.
So you're going to see all sorts of amazing, crazy things here. So
You definitely have to check it out.
don't miss a second of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, that's twitch.tv/Capcom Fighters.
And if you like the sort of stuff that we've done today, where we talk about players, their history, analyze their matches and their gameplays and game plans, then come check out our stuff, which is on youtube.com/UltraChenTV and twitch.tv/UltraChenTV.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, we really do try to break it down from all sorts of angles, you know, from very beginner, I'm just playing fighting games for the first time standpoint, or really high level mind games. And also, if you just like keeping up with what's going on in the FGC, the fighting game community in general, we do a show every week where we just talk about, you know, tournament results and upcoming game news and stuff like that. So definitely check it out.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you at Capcom Cup.